live stream is just starting now. It should be going in about 5 seconds. There you go. I'll just send the
Right.
back to Jane.
Mm-hmm.
Jane, you're coming through a loop because you shouldn't be using your computer. We should just be using, you need to turn off all your microphones.
Turn down.
You might have to turn your mic off,
Mute
Jane.
yourself on. Mute yourself, Jane. Yeah, that should be better.
Right.
Does that works?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're live streaming, and I'm happy to declare an ordinary meeting of the Queenstown Lakes District Council held via Zoom to be open. Confirm that we are live streaming. So welcome councillors, welcome members of the media, welcome staff, welcome any members of the public who are watching. Apologies, do we have any apologies? None that I'm aware of. Thank you. Leave of absence requests. Can I have any councillors who wish to record leave or request leave of absence?
I just want to note that I will be tied up with district plan hearings through the latter part of June and July for not all the time. It doesn't require a leave of absence, but it will affect the ongoing involvement in some activity.
And
Okay,
I'll be a party of that. Sorry, I'll be a party of that as well. So
okay, thank you, Callum. Noted.
Are you taking leave?
No. Well, I haven't made up my mind yet. No others? Thank you. I don't think we need to approve leave of absence, just noting Quentin and Callum's requirements on planning matters. Declarations of conflict of interest. Are there any declarations any councillor wishes to make? There are none. Special announcements, I have none. Public forum, so due to the social distancing requirements in place in response to COVID-19, speaking at the public forum is temporarily suspended. During this period, speakers who wish to address council in public forum have been invited to present their comments in writing. Only one comment has been received for public forum today, and that is from Daryl Rogers. It has been circulated to councillors, and our governance advisor, Jane, will read it aloud now.
Good afternoon, Mayor and councillors. My name is Daryl Rogers, and I will be addressing the COVID-19 response. With the current lockdown being peeled back, many see this as an example of what we can do in a crisis. They seek to use this tragedy to justify their unrelated ideological views and urge government to exercise their control on the population and rebuild a new system for the perceived greater good. Our free market system is indeed fragile, and when you remove its key component, freedom. Any system that does not have this quality at its core will be destructive to our way of life. It is imperative to note that the Climate Action Plan, being part of the COVID-19 response, is totally devoid of this concept, with freedom absent from the UN's development goals. With the country having joined my own family homeschooling, it demonstrates how more freedom and flexibility serves community and environmental goals. Schooling in its current form is a relic of a pre-industrial age where class time required physical presence to transfer information. This is no longer the case. Homeschoolers receive a fraction of the funding that goes to the government system that on average provides $7,600 per year per student. Let us imagine a world in which parents had the same funding to provide an education to their children. One parent would not be forced to work a second household job and could instead spend these short, precious years with their children. Having more parents at home with children builds stronger communities that have been eroded by the social push over the last few decades to encourage all adult family members into the workforce, with documented consequences of time-poor families and ever-increasing home prices due to greater household incomes. What does this mean for Queenstown Lakes? Imagine a destination that is not held hostage by the artificial inflexibility that is created by school holidays. Tourist numbers can be spread more evenly throughout the year as families have the flexibility to choose times that are quieter and cheaper. Roading infrastructure is given a reprieve from the school time rush, and peaks and troughs of seasonal infrastructure demands are smoothed. I urge Council to, rather than increase layers of control, instead think laterally and peel back those controls in government structures that often are the root cause of the problems we are trying to solve. I thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jane, and thank you, Mr. Rogers. We now move to confirmation of the agenda. So I do need to note that a special resolution has been added to the agenda. And I move that the agenda be confirmed with an additional item in the public excluded part of the meeting entitled Lakeview Request for Budget Increase to be taken as part of the Chief Executive's report. Now, the reason for the item not being included in the original agenda is due to an administrative error, and the reason the item cannot be delayed until the next meeting is because additional funding is needed to be able to to award the contract, and any delay in this award impacts the overall program and puts at risk the development agreement. Can I have a seconder for that resolution, please?
Happy to second, Jim.
Thank you. That was John, was it?
Yes.
Yep, thank you. We will need individual councillors to vote. Jane?
If you deem this more than a procedural item.
Okay, can I suggest then that anybody who disagrees with that, please indicate. Otherwise, we will take it as agreed. Okay, no one has disagreed, therefore carried. Move to confirmation of the minutes of our last meeting. And I will note that Councillor Gladding has advised that she will request an amendment to page 12 of the minutes, page 12 of the minutes, page 17 of the agenda, recording her vote against the motion for item 1, Queenstown Airport Corporation statement of intent. So with that alteration to the minutes, I move that the minutes of the public part of the ordinary meeting of the Queenstown Lakes District Council held on 23rd April 2020, as amended, as I've explained, be confirmed as a true and correct record. Can I have a seconder?
I'm happy to second that, Jim.
Thank you, Val. Again, anyone who disagrees, tell me, otherwise we will. Neve, you've got a request?
Yeah, sorry, Jim. This was just about the resolution to include the budget addition for Lakeview.
We have already passed that item, Neve.
I was not aware of the process, and I put my name up when you were saying it, but it wasn't noticed. And I just want to clarify that that resolution was to add that to the agenda rather than agreeing to it at this time.
The agenda item says that the item be added to the agenda.
Happy days. That's good with me. I'm good with all of that.
Thank you. Come back to what we're talking about now, that is the confirmation of the minutes. It has been seconded. Does anybody disagree? Okay, we will take that as read. That takes us to item 1 of your council papers, which is the proposed waste fees and charges. And we have Laura and Pete on this item. Welcome along. And I'd ask probably Laura if you have anything specifically you wish to add to this.
Nothing further to add than what's in the paper.
Thank you, Laura. The item is pretty self-explanatory, but I'll find it amongst my papers. We are requested to note the contents of the report and adopt the waste fees and charges for the 2020-2021 year. Nikki, you wish to talk to this?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just have a question on the no issue with the intent of it. It's just wondering if I'm assuming reduction in the e-waste charge is going to be significant enough and obvious enough to change behaviour initially, and whether, given the risk to the environment, we could actually shoulder a bit more of that cost across the board until behaviour changes. Just a query. I've got no position on it at this point.
Sure, good question. So we started accepting e-waste for diversion at the facilities on the 1st of July last year, and already we've seen quite a large amount of e-waste come through the facilities. So this is more around encouraging that behaviour to continue and to expand that behaviour even more.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? We have one. Penny, can we recycle e-waste?
Yes, we can. So we have already recycled e-waste in the last 12 months. So what happens is we palletise it at our facilities. It is then taken to e-cycle in, I believe, Christchurch, where they basically strip it all down and take out all the relevant components that they can recycle.
Thanks, Laura.
John, you've moved. Would somebody care to second?
Happy
Thank you, Penny. Penny, thank you. We do need to ask everybody to signal their individual vote on this, please. So, Jane.
I'll do it in random order.
Random order. So if you can click on the chat bar and
probably just say,
I'll just read it.
or if you can say aye, okay, right.
Councillor Miller.
In favour.
Councillor McLeod.
Crack on.
Councillor Ferguson.
In favour.
Councillor Gladding.
In favour.
Councillor Clark.
In favour.
Mayor Bolt.
In favour.
Councillor Smith.
In favour.
Councillor McDonald. Councillor Copeland.
Affirmative.
Councillor Lewis.
In favour.
Councillor Shaw.
In favour.
Okay, so the motion is carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. That takes us to the next item on the agenda, which is underground service easements, Queenstown Commercial Limited Stage 7 Subdivision, Lake Hayes Estate, on page 34 of your council papers. The paper is put forward by Aaron with support from Thurnis and Dan. Aaron, are you present?
Yep.
You are, I can see you. Is there anything you wish to add to this?
Can't hear you, Aaron. You're muted.
Nothing to add. I've got 2 mute buttons.
Right. So let me have a look at the chat bar. John, you have a question. Oh, sorry, Nikki, you're first.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm not worried about order, but just a query that relates to what rest of what I'm going to say. It seemed to me that the services have already been put in ahead of the easement being granted. So if I can have another question after you answer this one, is that standard procedure, or should QCL have applied for the easement initially?
Yes, they should have applied for the easement first. There was some sort of misunderstanding from their side in terms of their development and their approvals they needed. So the services were installed without our knowledge. We're now trying to remedy that with easements. That being said, if they had have applied to us first, we would still be recommending the same thing. The locations are appropriate in context.
Okay, thanks. So that was my
supplementary question, Nikki.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, so I was just concerned that that bit of land looked like, I know it's reserve land, but it looked like it could be the better land, and I haven't been there, if we needed recreation buildings or something like that, and they've put the service right through the middle of it. So I was just a bit concerned that if we'd granted the easement at the right time, it would have gone around, and a bit of a concern about not applying penalties under the Reserves Act, because if developers catch on to the fact that you can just apply retrospectively, we could end up with some problems. So have you got any thoughts on that?
They have levelled out the area where they have put the services. So prior to the development, it was had a degree of slope. The area wouldn't be big enough for a building, and it does contain a formed public cycleway, which leads from the development down to the Widgeon Place. In terms of penalties, we haven't advanced any penalties. We are mindful that the subdivision that this is a part of contains a large number of dwellings which are earmarked for the housing trust. That is a consideration we've had in moving this forward. It's not.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. John, question?
Yeah, Nikki stole my comment, but I'm just grave concerned that developers are just running through, putting stuff through our property without getting appropriate permission at the right time, and I think we should be signalling that it's not acceptable.
Yeah, agree, and take that on board. Penny, what is envisaged here, a reserve? Has that question already been answered for you?
No, I just want to get my head around whether that's going to finish up being a development in the long run, or is it going to be earmarked for a reserve? Right. And therefore, is it impacting on the services here?
Aaron?
So I'm not too sure if I understood the question correctly. It just the services are going in a small triangle of recreation reserve. They're all underground. It's grassed above. There is another easement that will be coming to council for a transformer, but the use is really of that area of reserve is for a cycleway, we'll say, and the remainder of that area will be grassed.
I think, if I may, sorry, Aaron, I think the question was, is Lot 2, the balance of Lot 2-1 recreation reserve, and I think that is correct, isn't it? That's the Widgeon Place Reserve.
Yes, it's a very large piece of land which joins in with other reserve areas, and the easements are in a small triangular projection.
Did I answer your question, Councillor Clark?
No, I'm not sure. We're talking about the easement area, and I'm actually talking about the land possibly south of this, which is Lot 321. It's got a bicycle track through it, I think. And I'm just trying to ascertain, is that going to land up with houses on it, or is it going to be a reserve? In other words, are they going to connect to these services?
No, that's that Lot 321 is reserve, and that will remain as reserve.
Right. So, question answered. Thank you.
Yeah.
Glenn, next up, yours.
Yeah, I might have just clicked onto it myself, but it's been a while since I've done this stuff. Aaron, could you just clarify to me on Area D and Area F, it shows a stormwater line going through there, but there's no reference to a stormwater line descriptions. They refer to a water line, but they don't refer to a stormwater line. Does water include stormwater is pretty much the question I'm asking.
I'm just looking where D is. It's area
So-
C is existing. On D.
So page, what are we, sorry, 43.
I think, oh yeah, on 43. So area D is telecommunications, electricity, and water and gross. That'll be fresh water. It wouldn't be stormwater.
Yeah, there's just that green line that, on the previous page that's called up as a stormwater main. That's just my question there.
I'm not too sure. Sorry, it is below ground at least.
I take it just feeders out to an open drain further into the reserve, but I was just wondering, should that have been included?
There is further consideration. There will be more easements being requested, and there is a stormwater discharge area in the reserve, which was being previously considered by council officers about 3 years ago, I believe. And I'm not too sure if that has an easement or if it's still yet to be considered. I haven't been involved, I'm afraid.
So if it is, it'll come back.
Yeah, there's going to be more requests put to council for easements in this location. One probably at your next meeting, and possibly another one down the line. I'm not too sure when.
All right, thank you. Councillors, I've taken on board the comments that have been made. Aaron, I think it would be fair to say that councillors are not best pleased to have these requests come retrospectively, and the developer should be informed of that, and that we will take a very dim view of any other similar events. And perhaps that message can be generally delivered to the development community, if you would take that on board.
I will reiterate that because we've already said the same thing to them. So,
thank you. Thank you. Can we have somebody move, please?
Happy to move.
That was you, John. Thank you. Seconded by Ferg. Again, I think, Jane, you'll need to go through the list.
Councillor Lewis.
In favour.
Councillor Copeland.
Affirmative.
Councillor Miller.
Affirmative.
Councillor Gleding.
In favour.
Councillor Ferguson.
He seconded it.
Seconded it.
Councillor Clark.
In favour.
Mayor Bolt.
In favour.
Councillor MacDonald moved it. Councillor MacLeod.
Crack on.
Councillor Shaw.
In favour.
Councillor Smith.
In favour.
Okay, so the motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you, councillors. Item 3 on page 45 of your papers, underground services easement sought by Queenstown Lakes District Council over Lismore Park. And are you talking to this as well, Aaron, are you?
Yes, I am. Thunis, I think, should be here as well, and Vivian Chen from the Property and Infrastructure team.
Righto. Is there anything you want to add to your paper?
I have nothing further to add.
Right. Councillors, Callum, you've got a question.
Yep, I thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. A question I raised, I've no issues with the easement or the granting of the easement. As a question, it's just to refer to a question I raised with Thunis and Peter and a few others, is that from the look, if you look at the page 52 of the agenda, the line of the progression of the work seems to progress down Lismore Street on the north side of Lismore Street, and this is the edge of Lismore Park. It's currently been used as a desire line parking, and I fully appreciate that this is just an underground easement. But when this gets reinstated, I suggested that potentially there might be, recognising the desire line as is, we could actually reform it. And I'm not suggesting seal or curb and channel, but reform it in a way that it provides for informal parking in this area, which is currently being undertaken, and it would actually make it slightly safer in my mind. I've mentioned this same topic several times over several years, and just wanted to highlight it at this stage. I got a response from Mr. Clute, and it was understood, but it's a situation where we can end up with a couple of wins for this community, and it would be appreciated if we could look at these sort of events holistically, and when it comes to the reinstatement, we can actually do something about the lack of parking for the CBD. Thank you.
Thank you, Callum. I think that's a statement more than a question.
It was. It's an ongoing issue, and it would be something that I'd appreciate some further dialogue with Mr. Hansby and Mr. Clute, which would be great.
Right. Thank you. Noted. And Quentin, you had a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate Callum's concern is that we really do need integrated decision making between those departments on those. And you can imagine if you had a water pipe or a wire that was 600 mils under the ground, and then but you required to cut into the bank a metre in order to create parking at road level, then you have a conflict of purposes, and you know, that we don't want to see that. It's clearly been earmarked for parking along that road edge. I'm also interested just in a comment that the road appears to run through the corner of the reserve. Is that correct? In that location?
There is, yeah.
So there might need to be a legalisation of that as we move forward as well.
I'm not too sure. I suppose at the moment it's how it's functioning, and it's functioning as a road, albeit that the reserve boundary does project into that area. I think council would probably be the only people affected. It is something that could be tidied up, but I'm not too sure. Yeah, what could be? We could. That is something we could look at.
Okay, perhaps you can take that on board as something to consider, assuming the item's approved, Aaron.
Yeah, that sounds
and
good.
Maybe come back to us at some stage. Thank you. Supporting Callum, trees. Penny, you're asking a question about trees?
Yes, thank you. I just noted in the written words that it says no trees are going to be impacted. I just want to reaffirm that, because when I look at the picture on page 51 and the section where we go across for Beaumont and Lismore, in the picture there are trees there. So just want to be confident we've sorted that out.
Yeah, we've suggested it. We've required a condition that the arborist goes out on site to identify that there wouldn't be any trees impacted. One of our staff members has gone out on site and said that the location is feasible and it does miss trees, and we'll just be holding that that advice.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Niamh, you had a couple of questions.
Thanks, Jim. Yes. Under the council report, number 9, it says all utility services are to be placed underground unless it is impractical due to exceptional circumstances. What sort of exceptional circumstances would these be? I mean, surely this has all been determined.
I think these are in-ground services, so they can be placed underground. An exceptional circumstance could actually be if there was electrical infrastructure going in and there had to be a transformer which was accessible, and that would be above ground. That would be an exceptional circumstance. Otherwise, everything has to go underground in Lismore Park.
Okay, but mainly what I'm asking is that, you know, with these easements, you know, a proposal is put forward, here's what we want to do, it's all going to be underground, so we should know that there is nothing going to be above ground.
There's nothing above ground for this one.
Okay, just a little bit uncomfortable with the exceptional circumstances and what that might actually cover.
This being the reserve management plan policy, which gives guidance.
Okay. Second question then is the temporary minor disruption, how long that is likely to, what sort of estimate of the time that disruption is going to take?
I might just pass this over to Vivian from the infrastructure team if she's available to answer that.
Yes,
Thanks.
I am. Yes, I am. Apologies, my camera doesn't work. So I just toggle with my voice. So to some degree, the duration of construction depends on the contractor's methodology, but we would expect, say, maybe 25 meters pipe a day. So the Lismore Headage crossing might take just over a week to be conservative, and the crossing at Belmont and Lismore would take less than a week. Again, that's just say 2 weeks to be conservative. The reinstatement of the grass would take a little bit longer. So we could spray on some grass, but it would need to be fenced off for a while to re-establish the grass. And we can put a low kind of softer fence so people can cross over if they lose a ball behind it and they can pick it back.
Okay, so we are talking about a number of weeks rather than months.
For the actual construction, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question, Steve? Thank you. Nikki, you've got a question?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, just going back to the trees, I've just noticed that the recommendation says that one of the conditions is no trees will be adversely affected by infrastructure alignment, but the report is slightly different. It says at point 3 under context, however, there's a proviso that council's arborist ensures that this will not have a detrimental effect on any important trees in the locale. So I'm just wondering if we could note for the record that just so we're sure that it's what's in the recommendation that we're agreeing rather than what's in the report. Would that be fair?
So Aaron, have you got a comment on that?
Yeah, I think we should be going with the recommendation.
Right.
Look, I mean,
so we're going with the recommendation. Thank you. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have a mover in the form of Glyn and a seconder in the form of Callum. And for the sake of the record, Councillor Miller, your dog can't vote. I ask Jane to take the vote again.
Councillor MacDonald.
Yes.
Councillor Copeland.
Affirmative.
Councillor Ferguson.
In favour.
Councillor Clark.
In favour.
Mayor Bolt.
In favour.
Councillor Miller.
In favour.
Councillor Gladding.
In favour.
Councillor Lewis is the mover. Councillor McLeod is the seconder. Councillor Smith.
In favour.
Councillor Shaw.
In favour.
Yes, so motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, councillors. Moving to item 4, and noting that should we pass this resolution, we need to appoint 2 elected members to co-sign the documents. So the lengthy paper has been put forward, and it's page 53 of your papers. We are asked to note the contents of the report, endorse amendments to the New Zealand Local Government Funding Agency Foundation documents, and authorise the Chief Executive and 2 elected members to be named to execute the documents to allow Council continue to participate with the New Zealand Local Government Funding Agency. Do you have anything to add to this, Chief Executive?
I don't have anything. I know Stu's in the room in case he needs to make any comment. Obviously, we've been a member of the LGFA for some time, and this is largely a procedural item in terms of changes to that, and Council need to agree that. But Stu, you may wish to comment further.
Yes, it is a procedural item. Most councils in the country are members of the LGFA and will be required to undertake a similar process. It would be very handy to have 2 councillors that are close to Gorge Road tomorrow to be named, because I'd like to get it signed tomorrow if possible.
Right, so Penny, you've moved and suggested that Heath and John, could I suggest that maybe we swap one of those out for myself, because I will be here, and whichever other councillor. It would be good, John, if you signed this, given your position as Chair of Audit and Risk.
Yep, we could do so.
So I will second that. And the nominated councillors put forward then are John and myself. And sorry, a seconder. Oh, I beg your pardon, I've just seconded it. Yes. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. So can you then go through the vote, please, Jane?
Councillor Gladding.
Apologies, that was too slow. In favour.
Councillor McLeod.
I'd just like to thank Stu for the extra 350 pages of reading. In favour.
Total disclosure.
Councillor Smith.
In favour.
Councillor Ferguson.
In favour.
Councillor Clark.
Favour.
Moved it. And the Mayor seconded it. Councillor Copeland.
Affirmative.
Councillor Lewis.
In favour.
Councillor McDonald.
Yes.
Councillor Shaw.
In favour.
Councillor Miller.
In favour.
And the motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you, councillors. That takes us to the Chief Executive's report on page 56 of your papers.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think relatively simple report this month. So noting the contents of the report, in particular the decisions of the Wanaka Community Board regarding the Lakeland Adventures Wanaka lease, and also on page 58 the vesting of 3 local purpose reserves associated with the North Lake development, and these were all considered by the Wanaka Community Board. And 2 items to approve. The first is the addition of new staff officers with delegated authority, and you'll see the amendments to the delegations register. They largely reflect changes in title as opposed to changes in or additions of personnel. And this is just part of making sure that our delegations register fully reflects the organisation and the positions in that. And the last one is really just a retrospective approval of the submission that we made on behalf of Council to the ORC regional plan, and that was requesting the addition of effectively an additional full-time emergency management officer as part of the ORC to be dedicated to Queenstown Lakes District Council, and that was actually approved yesterday by the ORC at its hearings on, or at its decision making on its annual plan. So that's actually a really good outcome for us. We've been lobbying for that for some time to get some additional resource management functions here. Megan has done a great job over a number of years to try and persuade the ORC that that's something that needed to happen, and we've now got that approval in place, which is fantastic.
Right, that's a good outcome. Thank you. Quentin, you had something you wanted to add to this?
Yes, thank you. Just in regard to the last community board meeting, there was a resolution by the board that was recommended to, there was a recommendation to council, and it was, I understand, and Jane will be able to confirm the wording, but that the recommendation was that the table and chairs policy be changed to require a minimum unobstructed width of pavements of 3 metres. And that was a recommendation of the board coming to council. So that was from the last community board meeting.
Right, thank you, Quentin. So the table and shares policy is one that is up for review. In fact, I think we'd sort of signalled sort of the middle of this year, and it's possibly been delayed as a result of the COVID environment. But certainly, I think we noted your comment or the board's position at that time, so we'll certainly be taking that on board.
All right, thank you. We'll
thank
take
you.
that on.
Just noting that was a specific recommendation from the board that was to come to council. I hoped it would have come through the chief executive report. So yeah.
Right, thank you, noted. And Callum supports that. Nikki, you had a comment?
Retrospective submission, just wanted to say again, if we could, when those submissions are made, even if they don't come to us at a meeting because there's no time, could we circulate them via email so we can just, in case there's something we wanted to add or just a request there. But the question is more on the delegations of authority. Just we've added senior engineering to a lot of these, and there's a little dash afterwards saying engineering acceptance slash subdivision. Is that limiting the senior engineer's ability to sign off on things that are just related to engineering rather than planning? I'm just making sure everyone stays within their limits of expertise. Does that make sense?
Well, that's exactly why. Yeah, thank you, Nikki. Yep. That's exactly why that's there. So the engineers in that instance are RMA engineers. They report through to Dave Wallace's team, and they are only involved in subdivision approvals and engineering acceptances on subdivision. So they won't have any approvals regarding land use or anything like that. Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. So on the basis of that, I will move that Council 1 note, 2 note, 3 approve, 4 approve, and under the Wanaka Community Board item, grant the new licence. Could I have a second?
Second, Jim.
Thank you, Heath. And you will take us through the vote again, please, Jane.
Councillor Lewis.
In favour.
Councillor Smith.
In favour.
Councillor MacDonald.
Yes.
Councillor Ferguson.
In favour.
Councillor Clark.
Favour.
The Mayor is in favour as a mover. Councillor Copeland. Councillor Gladding.
In favour.
Councillor Miller.
In favour.
Councillor Shaw.
In favour.
Councillor McLeod.
Crack on.
Okay, so the motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, councillors. We now need to move to public excluded. I move that we move into public excluded. Could I have a seconder, please?
Yeah, Penny.
Thank you.
Who's the seconder? Sorry.
Penny.
Right. Penny,
Yep.
thank you. Does anybody disagree with moving into public excluded? No, we will take that as a unanimous agreement. Now, can we please have confirmation that live streaming has stopped?
Not at the moment.
Is Jane the host, so she has to do that?
Yes.
So Jane's just catching up with some.
So I have to, sorry. So I'm actually uncertain what